College students today are assumed to be up to date about what's happening in the world both locally and globally. This age group as a whole is assumed to be better connected to the rest of the world because of technological advancements like the internet and social media. But even with this education and these technological advancements, how much do we really know about the world around us? Through this course, I was exposed to the reality of transnational movements and the practice of deterritorialization that happens here in the US and abroad. I was so struck with a eureka moment that I wanted to see what other college students knew about these topics. To do this, I asked my fellow classmates a series of questions to get a feel on what they knew. To start, I wanted to see if my peers felt educated in this topic as a whole, so I asked, do you feel familiar with the concept of globalization? Here were some of the responses.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know what it means.
Okay, that's fine.
Kind of. How the world is becoming more connected, like with technology and commerce and trade.
Yeah. Next, I asked, when you think of the movement of objects or people or ideas across countries or national lines, what do you think of?
Basically just spreading culture.
Okay.
Is what I would think of.
Okay.
Just spreading their ideas around.
Like commerce? Okay, so like economics, I guess.
I think of westernization, so like people taking Western culture and trying to force it on Eastern culture.
Okay.
I think of people moving physically and then bringing their culture and their ideas, and like I think we're all becoming like melding into one kind of culture almost.
Okay. I then asked, which way do these objects, people, or ideas seem to move with respect to the core and periphery nations?
I would say probably third to first. I think a lot of people are moving to first world countries and then bringing their culture, but the problem is that a lot of people are trying to get those third world or like minority cultures to assimilate and like become this majority culture.
Third world.
I guess it kind of depends. Usually, like raw materials and natural resources and stuff tend to go from like small populations to big populations, and then I don't know, I don't know. I feel like foods and like manufactured goods kind of go in the opposite direction.
Which way would
So
that
like
be?
processed things usually go from. I don't know. It's interesting.
To develop.
Yeah, it's definitely like underdeveloped or small cultures, and then moves towards those larger, more developed cultures. Prime example would be, all of the practices that the Native Americans had in the United States were kind of taken by British people whenever they traveled here. And the same could be said about basically any underdeveloped country. When a highly developed country such as the United States, Great Britain, or Spain, whenever they conquer a new country, whenever they did conquer new countries, they always kind of just took those practices and those ideas and claimed them as their own.
Okay. There are a surprising amount of people who thought of periphery to core movements right away for these kind of transnational movements, but for those who thought of core to periphery, I challenged them to think otherwise.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, most of our stuff comes from other countries.
Like what?
Okay, I don't know right now. I know that Japan takes wood from South America because they're very, like, environmental friendly over there, so they don't want to hurt their environment, but they're okay with hurting the rest. The ones in South America.
Okay.
I mean, we have some like Mexican foods that we eat, and I guess Mexico isn't the greatest place, but I guess it's not really third world. I don't know, instruments maybe, but nothing really as intensive as I would say the Western culture.
Okay. For all participants, I challenged them to think of examples of periphery to periphery movement.
Just third world? Not off the top of my head.
Underdeveloped to underdeveloped. I can't say for sure, considering I've never been in an underdeveloped country.
Maybe like something with poverty, like if they have like if two small or underdeveloped countries like have a common like issue or a common resource that they could like help each other out with.
I mean, possibly like refugees moving out of like war zones. I mean, they'll probably seek shelter in like the closest area, like nearby. I'm not really sure.
For deterritorialization, I asked, do you feel a culture can exist outside a specific territory, and is that culture still significant if it leaves its home range?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's always little like niches within different areas. So like my mom's from the Philippines, and she obviously has her Filipino culture and heritage, and she brought that to America when she moved here. And now she's like part of like a Filipino like association. So she has a group of tight knit Filipinos that you know migrated here, immigrated here, and so they have their little like cultural circle here that obviously is not the culture that's widespread throughout America. You know?
So you feel
Like significant to them or to their
Yes.
surroundings?
Both.
Well, definitely to them. I don't think. I mean, it might decrease a tad depending on like where they went and like the culture there too. But I think it would still be pretty similar.
Because I think if you move, you're going to want to try to keep your original culture, but it's going to be hard not to kind of mesh in with the culture that you're going to be exposed to, like in that moment as well.
Would these mixing of cultures be homogenizing, heterogenizing, or hybridizing?
I think it's different entities. I don't think that we're all going to be the same or believe the same things or have the same traditions. Because we're all like mixed in.
I would say it's a hybrid. I wouldn't say one takes over the other, but more of like they melt into like a new one. So it's like kind of like a melting pot, I would say. So like for me, my culture is like a mixture of Filipino culture and like your typical American culture because I have a Filipino mom and an American dad. So I've taken what I've seen from both cultures and kind of made it into my own. And like I know other Filipino American people like myself that have also like created their own little culture. And so like I would say like when two cultures mix, like they create their own like new culture. Like obviously that's not how it is for every situation, but I would say for the like most and for I don't know like the best situations, I would say they melt into like one new one where they both like honor and respect both origins.
I think like many years in the future, it's going to become homogenized. But right now, like culture is so important to people as an identity, and so they like cling to their culture and like are kind of reluctant to learn about other people's cultures. So maybe more of a hybridization right now.
Finally, I asked, what do you think influences these movements?
Media for sure. Just recently being abroad, I saw a lot of influence from the United States, like how it's influenced places abroad. Media, like a lot of their TV shows and movies are U.S., so they know a lot about the U.S. and U.S. politics, versus we don't know as much about other places. Traveling, I guess, sharing ideas with people from other places.
Money, um, probably mostly money, and also probably like other family members. Like if people immigrate to America, their families follow them, sort of thing. Especially if they do well at first. So probably money.
Well, resources, work, um, like your feelings, like if you feel safe where you are, I guess. If you like want to experience new things, it makes you move. Like if you want to study abroad, and you want to experience like something that like you're not familiar with, like that would make you move.
I guess like where the person came from, like if they're leaving something like a non okay area and like they're moving to like a better area.
Okay.
I guess just connection, like human connection, and wanting to see a piece of other people's lives and see their perspective and like try to, I don't know, like gain something from them, whether that be, um, more developed because their practices get them into like a more developed setting, or maybe it gains them perspective, or it gains them knowledge, and like things like that. So I would say like the movement of these cultures and these ideas are solely based on like connecting with other humans and seeing, different ways of lives.
In summary, I found my peers were fairly well educated in identifying equal movements between nations in the assertion of cultures into a new territory, this concept of deterritorialization.